Kai did not sleep. For the rest of the night, he sat on the floor with his back against the bed frame and one hand pressed over the warmth beneath his ribs. The impossible did not fade. It waited with him through the last hours of rain, pale and patient at the edge of his sight. The panel followed wherever he looked. Heavenly Ascension System host, Kai spiritual core, dormant ember chi circulation, minimal current realm, mortal strength, 2 endurance, 2 agility, 2 vitality, 2 spirit, 3 perception, 2 focus, 2 He tried the obvious things first because panic liked routines. He blinked until his eyes watered. He closed them and counted slowly. He turned off the light, turned it back on, splashed his face in the bathroom sink, and stood under the weak bulb staring into the cracked mirror until his reflection looked like someone waiting for bad news. The panel remained. At first, fear kept him still. Then disbelief took over. By 4 in the morning, exhaustion had made room for a thin, irritated kind of curiosity. A hallucination did not explain the ember in his chest. A fever did not explain why his breathing had steadied after the first successful cycle. A prank did not follow him when he pulled the blanket over his head and sat in darkness for 10 miserable minutes. That was when he stopped trying to win an argument with the air. Outside the window, the city shifted from black to gray. Wet streets caught the first traffic lights in broken red and green streaks. Delivery trucks groaned awake below. Somewhere in the building, a neighbor's alarm rang 3 times before being slapped silent. Kai watched morning arrive from the floor. Usually, mornings hurt before they became anything else. His lungs tightened before his feet touched the ground. His joints ached as if sleep had rusted them. His hands trembled until he ate something, and sometimes even after that. Every day began with his body reminding him that he was living on credit. This morning was different. Not good. Not healthy. Different. The weakness was still there, but it had edges now. It no longer felt bottomless. When he inhaled, the breath reached deeper than usual. When he exhaled, the familiar pinch in his chest waited but did not bite as hard. Kai distrusted the improvement immediately. He had learned early that brief relief could be cruel. It made people hopeful. Hope made the return of pain feel personal. Still, his fingers kept drifting back to his chest. The ember remained small, steady, and impossible. His phone alarm buzzed weakly from the mattress. Kai picked it up and saw 6:15 a.m. blinking above a battery warning. Work started at 7. For several seconds he stared at the time. Then he laughed once, too quietly to be funny. Of course. Whatever had happened to him, rent was still due. His uniform hung from the chair, black pants, gray shirt, faded convenience store logo over the chest. The fabric smelled faintly of detergent and old fryer oil no matter how often he washed it. Kai dressed slowly, testing each movement before trusting it. When he bent to pull on his shoes, he braced for dizziness. It did not come. That absence unsettled him more than pain would have. The panel shifted. Daily mortal task available. A second window opened beneath the first. Task, stabilize the body. Objective, complete basic physical movement before sunrise. Cycle ends. Requirements: walk 1 kilometer, 0/1 controlled breathing cycles, 0/20 basic body weight squats, 0/10 reward, minor vitality integration. Failure penalty, none. Kai read the requirements twice and stopped on the last line. No penalty, he murmured. The words should have reassured him. Instead, they made the task feel uncomfortably gentle, as if the system already knew how often he had been punished by his own body for trying too hard. His eyes returned to the squats. 10 was nothing to most people. For Kai, 10 could be the difference between feeling proud and lying on a gym floor while classmates pretended not to stare. He remembered the nurse kneeling beside him during freshman year fitness testing, remembered the coach saying he had only wanted Kai to try, remembered the silence afterward. People never knew what to do when encouragement became harm. Kai grabbed his bag. Not now, he told the panel. It did not argue. That made it harder to ignore. The hallway outside his apartment smelled like damp carpet and stale smoke. A light flickered above the stairs. Someone's television murmured through a closed door. Kai locked his apartment, checked the handle twice, and started down. The elevator had been broken for 3 weeks, which meant 5 flights every morning and every night. Usually he paused at the 3rd floor landing if his chest tightened. Today he reached the lobby before he realized he had not stopped. He stood there with one hand on the railing, breathing quietly. No burning lungs. No black spots. No shaking knees. Just weakness, but manageable weakness. The system pulsed. Walk 1 kilometer, 0.2/1. You counted the stairs, he whispered. An elderly woman collecting mail glanced across the lobby. Kai looked away at once and stepped outside. Cold morning air struck his face. The city had that washed-out look it carried after rain, as if the grime had only been spread thinner. Cars hissed over wet asphalt. Steam rose from street vents. Across the road, a glowing billboard advertised a luxury wellness clinic with smiling people standing under artificial sunlight. Kai hated that billboard. He passed beneath it every morning on his way to the convenience store. Usually he took the bus if he had enough change or if his body felt especially bad. Otherwise he walked and arrived already tired. Today he walked because the counter in the corner of his vision made each step feel noticed. Walk 1 kilometer, 0.3/1. He kept his head down. Office workers carried coffee. Delivery riders adjusted insulated bags. A man slept under the awning of a closed restaurant. The city moved around Kai without seeing him, which was familiar enough to be almost comforting. Halfway to work, the warmth in his chest stirred. It moved outward in thin threads. Not blood. Not nerves. Something else. The sensation brushed against muscle, bone, lungs, and skin, loosening the heaviness inside him by the smallest degree. Kai slowed. The air felt layered. The city still smelled like rainwater, exhaust, and trash left too long at the curb. Beneath that, far beneath, he sensed something bright and nearly tasteless, like minerals on the tongue or static before lightning. It was weak, scattered, buried under concrete and wires and human exhaustion, but it was there. Chi. The word rose in his mind before he could decide whether he believed it. Passive chi sensitivity awakened. Perception plus 0.1. Kai stared at the decimal. 0.1. A cyclist swerved around him and cursed. He flinched back into motion, muttered an apology nobody heard, and kept walking. By the time he reached the convenience store, the walking requirement had completed. He should have felt foolish for caring about a glowing checklist only he could see. Instead, the finished line settled somewhere inside him beside the ember. It was not hope. He refused to name it that. The store's back door stuck from the damp. Kai shouldered it open and stepped into the smell of coffee, plastic packaging, and yesterday's mop water. Marta stood behind the counter arguing with the receipt printer. "You're early," she said without looking up. Kai checked the clock above the register. He was. By 7 minutes. Couldn't sleep. You never sleep. Then I couldn't do something else. Marta gave him a look over the register. She was in her 30s, sharp-eyed, and kind in the practical way of people who had no time to perform kindness. She had covered for him more than once when his breathing got bad during a shift, but she never made a speech about it. Kai appreciated that more than he knew how to say. "You eat?" she asked. "Later." "That means no." He moved toward the storage room. "It means later." Marta snorted but let him go. The morning rush came fast. Coffee, cigarettes, lottery tickets, microwave breakfast sandwiches, commuters too tired to be polite. Kai scanned items, counted change, stocked shelves, and tried not to stare every time the panel updated a fraction of a task. Controlled breathing cycles, 3/20 controlled breathing cycles, 5/20 apparently breathing while pretending to be normal counted as training. The idea should have been absurd. Instead, it made him uneasy. The system was not asking him to punch through walls. It rewarded posture, breath, walking, lifting a box without twisting wrong. Tiny adjustments. Small acts repeated until the body accepted a different shape. Cultivation, if that was truly what this was, seemed less like sudden power and more like being rebuilt one careful piece at a time. That thought stayed with him until mid-morning, when the back alley went silent. Kai noticed because alleys were never silent. There was always traffic, dripping water, someone shouting into a phone, Marta cursing the trash bags for splitting open. But when he stepped outside with 2 boxes of recycling, the noise thinned as if someone had turned the world down. A man stood near the dumpster. He wore a dark coat despite the damp warmth gathering after the rain. He looked ordinary at first glance, late 20s or early 30s, clean shoes, calm expression, hands in his pockets. Then Kai felt the ember recoil. The man looked directly at his chest. Newly awakened, he said. Kai's grip tightened on the box. Sorry. The man's gaze lifted to his face. You are leaking chi badly enough that anything hungry within 3 blocks could follow you home. Every practiced response Kai had ever used with strangers vanished. I don't know what that means. That is obvious. The words were not cruel. That made them worse. Kai took half a step back toward the door. I have work. You also have 30 seconds. The air changed. Pressure dropped over him like invisible weight. The box slipped from his hands and bottles clattered across wet concrete. Kai's knees bent before he understood what had happened. His lungs locked. The alley narrowed around him. The man had not moved. Emergency task triggered. Endure spiritual pressure for 30 seconds. Reward, chi circulation stabilization failure penalty, forced collapse. Kai wanted to be angry at the phrasing. Forced collapse sounded too tidy for the terror rushing through his body. He could not even manage a full breath. 30. The number appeared in the corner of his vision. 29. He planted one shaking hand against the brick wall. Somewhere inside the store, Marta shouted at someone about paying before opening a drink. Normal life continued a few walls away, loud and unaware. Kai clung to that sound. 25. His bones vibrated. His heartbeat stumbled, then steadied around the ember. Warmth pushed through his chest in a thread so thin it felt impossible that it could matter. In out. Controlled breathing cycles, 6/20. He almost laughed and could not spare the air. 20. The man's expression changed. Interest, not surprise. Who taught you? Kai forced one word out. No one. The pressure deepened. 16. Every old warning in his body screamed at him to fold before something broke. Stop before pain becomes damage. Stop before effort becomes humiliation. Stop before wanting more gives people another reason to pity you. Beneath that voice, the ember burned. Small. Absurd. His. Kai straightened by a fraction. 9. The man's smile disappeared. 5. Kai's breathing frayed. 3. His knees buckled. 2. He caught himself against the wall. 1. The pressure vanished. Kai nearly fell forward, grabbing the dumpster with one hand as air rushed back into his lungs. The alley snapped into place around him, ugly and wet and real. Emergency task complete. Chi circulation stabilization initiated. Vitality plus 0.2, focus plus 0.1. The ember pulsed wider. Not enough to make him strong. Enough to keep him standing. The man watched him in silence. Kai lifted his head slowly. His voice came out rough. What do you want? Instead of answering, the man removed a small black card from his coat and flicked it lightly across the wet ground. Kai flinched, but the card stopped near his shoe. Silver text shimmered across its surface. Azure Meridian Hall. Below it was an address in North Hollow. Learn to hide that flame, the man said. Before something hungrier notices it. Kai looked from the card to him. What are you? The man turned toward the street. Someone who noticed first. Then he stepped into the morning crowd and vanished between passing pedestrians as if the city had folded around him. Kai stayed behind the store long after he disappeared. His hand trembled when he finally bent to pick up the card. It felt cold despite the warmth in the air. New objective available. Investigate Azure Meridian Hall. Reward, access to basic cultivation knowledge. From inside the store, Marta shouted through the open back door. Kai! You fall into the dumpster or what? Kai closed his fingers around the card and looked toward her voice. He still had a shift to finish. He still had rent to help pay. His hands were shaking, and he had no idea whether the man had helped him, threatened him, or done both in the same breath. But he was standing. For now, he decided, standing would have to be enough.